Superman and Lois. Jeez Louise. Episode 10. Series finale. God damn, it went by so fast. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end not only of Superman and Lois, but the Arrowverse and the previous DC regime as a whole, and that fucking sucks. It really sucks. And it's your boy Icon with a final DC television Arrowverse review for you, going over that Superman and Lois, the series finale. And before we get started, hit that notification bell, like and or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out my other reviews all over the place because this one hurt. So, and you know, and I remember when I didn't even know the Arrowverse was the Arrowverse like when I started watching. You know, like I said, I started watching from Arrow, season 2 of Arrow. Like, ironically, I started watching Arrow when The Flash got introduced. And then, you know, I got hooked on Arrow, and then we started watching The Flash. I remember when Tyler Hoechlin first got cast as Superman, and everybody was online calling him a hairless gorilla. And everybody was just like, oh, he's too short, and blah, blah, blah. And then now that, you know, fast forward so many years later, after he gets his own show out of the deal, and he was like, you know, the greatest Superman. Now all of a sudden everybody's online like, oh, I'm gonna miss him. Like, y'all are the same people who didn't like him when he first got cast. Happens all the time. So yeah, it sucks. You know, I remember when he was in Crisis, when he did the black suit Superman versus Flash, Supergirl, and Arrow. You know, I remember when he was in I remember the part 1 of the Crisis when they went to his Earth and then they brought him back. Even season 1 of Superman and Lois, where he was supposed to be on Earth 1, Earth Prime, because he had a seat at the Justice League table. Like, he had a seat at the table with all the other heroes. And then, you know, even in season 1, when John Diggle said, you know, like Oliver, Kara, Barry, and the rest of the heroes would have said Superman's the best of all of us. And they never followed up on that because after they canceled, once the CW decided to cancel all of the superhero TV shows, the writers of the show decided, well, if they're going to cancel all the other shows, but our show is still going to keep going, let's just take our show off of Earth 1 and put it on Earth 2 so we can tell independent stories and don't have to rely on the other heroes. So that kind of, and they said, you know, like that's what happened. And you know, it worked. I mean, eventually we all forgot about it. We never got the Green Lantern, John Diggle, so that sucks. Like, that sucks. But we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and, the yay, the nay, and the okay, and everything in between. But, you know, kudos to everybody involved. Love me some Superman and Lois, and I'm thankful that I'm here to say goodbye to an awesome show. I even bust out the cape. Like, I even bust out the Superman hoodie with the matching cape, you know, so... This episode, it actually started with Steel and with Lana. It started with John Henry Irons, where the two of them were together, and they were talking about how their relationship wasn't really working because he's at the DOD and she's the mayor. And they were just like, you know, she was like, well, maybe we should just, you know, call it quits. And then this was during the time where Superman was fighting Doomsday, because that's how we left the last episode. And then John Henry Irons, like, he got blown back. And then I guess when Lana saw that he got knocked unconscious and almost died, like, her heart, you know, grew 10 sizes. And then the two of them together tried to figure out a way to help Clark. The boys tried to help their dad, you know, fight Doomsday. Superman was like, no. He said that you're not ready for this thing. Just keep everybody safe, because Clark still has this thing where he has to do everything all by himself. John Henry and Lana, they go back to his lab. And when they go back to the lab, John Henry finds a device that attaches itself to kryptonite objects or to metal objects, and it explodes. So the Lana's just like, oh, you're going to use this to blow up Lex? And he said, yeah, but it needs a kick. And he said, I'm actually going to bring something that, you know, well, she wanted to know if it was going to destroy the monster for Doomsday, but then he was like, no, he said, I got something that's going to pack like a bigger boom. And then that's when he said that, that's when it dawned on me. When Lex stole the suit, like when he stole like the John Henry Iron Steel suit, he never took the hammer. And I don't know why, like, it sucks that I can't say I don't know why, because maybe like scheduling conflicts, but it sucks that Natalie wasn't there to assist him in that moment. But John had the hammer, he still had the hammer at his workshop at his house, because when Lex took the suit, Lex didn't take the hammer. So the boys that like Superman was getting his ass beat like by Doomsday, and then the boys ended up like intercepted, and then Doomsday started chasing them, and then that's when John Henry Irons like he helped Superman up, and then like Lois cursed Clark out because she was like, you can't do this by yourself anymore, and then that's when John was like, he doesn't have to. They was like, just lure Doomsday over here, and then we'll take care of the rest. Superman told the boys, he was like, yo boys, bring him to me, and then as he was bringing them to me, like the boys were flying towards their dad, and then once they got to him, they split off, and then when Doomsday was coming towards Superman, he tried to throw a punch at him, and then he dodged and did the he did the Henry Cavill, so that, like punch dodge, like the slow motion punch dodge, and then when he dodged the punch, John Henry's hammer came out of nowhere, and it literally bust him right. It bust like Doomsday right in the dome, and actually bloodied his teeth and like messed up his skull, and it knocked him out unconsciously. And then that's when they were just like, well, what are you going to do now? Superman said, I'm going to take him and I'm going to fly him up to the sun, because since he's from, Bizarro World, the sun actually weakens his power where it gives me power. And when he said that, I was like, hell no. Because, mind you, there's going to be things about this review that I'm going to love and things that I'm going to feel like is sketchy. When he said that, I was like, nah, because you done fought this thing all season long, including the end of last season. Why all of a sudden now has the sun thing never, like, why has this never come up? And it makes perfect sense because, again, he is from Bizarro World where everything is backwards and reversed. So, yes, the sun would weaken him. I just want to know, why wasn't this brought up a long time ago? And then that's when it dawned. But then it's like, if you think about it, if you look at all the scenes where Superman fought Doomsday or where Doomsday himself appeared, every time Doomsday showed up or every time he fought somebody, even when he killed the general and everything, it was always at nighttime. He was never there during the day. This is the first time Doomsday was walking around whooping somebody's ass during the day. And then you would think Superman was going toe-to-toe with him, to an extent. So I guess the sun was weakening him to an extent. But I'll let them have, like, despite the fact that no one has ever thought of that until this moment, I'm going to let them have that because this is the first time we'd seen Doomsday during the day. And then he took his body, flew it up to the sun, and then when he flew it up to the sun, Doomsday woke up. Superman thought he was going to have to fight him, but then Doomsday was like, no, because I guess getting hit with the hammer, like knocked him back to his senses. And then he started remembering, like, his wife, like his Lois, his kids, everything. He started remembering his family, and then he had realized the monster that he had become. And then he told Clark, he said that he was okay. He was like, do what you got to do. And then Superman pushed him into the sun, and then Doomsday like disintegrated and he exploded. Once Lex saw that, Lex ended up going after Miss McCoy, but then the boys saved her at the last minute. Lois told her she was going to go on TV and tell everybody what a monster Lex Luthor really is. The boys saved her, because Lex tried to kill her, and then Lex went to the town, so to try to exact his revenge. He blasted Jonathan, which basically stopped his heart, and then he was choking the life out of Jordan, and then Lois showed up and she said, Lex, you coward, you've been terrorizing my family because you're afraid of me, and I'm standing right here, you son of a bitch. And then she was like, you're picking on a 16-year-old boy. And he was like, yeah, a 16-year-old boy that has power. She was just like, but I'm the one that you want. And she's like, I'm right here, come get me, you bald bastard. And then when he hit the time to die, Lois, that's when Superman came out of nowhere, and now we're getting Superman versus Lex Luthor, and the two of them are fighting in the sky. Jordan went and he revived his brother by doing like a super speed defibrillator thing on him, clear. They ended up getting Miss McCoy to do the interview and to do the report. She told John Henry Irons where Milton was, and he was like, that's the guy that stole my suit. And then John Henry went down there and ran up on him. So they arrested Milton. They ended up getting control of the airwaves again because he had stopped them from broadcasting. And then meanwhile, Superman's up in the sky and he's fighting Lex Luthor. And then Lex Luthor was just like, why won't you die? And then Superman was like, you came after my family, my town, my city, everybody I love. And then he hit him with the Superman punch, like the real Superman punch. He punched him so hard, he knocked him out of the suit. And then, after he fell out of the suit, he caught him right before he splattered all over the ground. Superman saves the day. He hugs his family, and all is well. So that was nice. And like I said, it sucked that Natalie wasn't there in that moment. But, say la vie, that's what it is. We did get to see the boys one last time. But, I said it was cool because you got to see Superman fight Doomsday and then immediately fight Lex Luthor. So I'm not going to I'll never be mad at that. And I'm still upset that the Lexo suit wasn't purple and green, but, it is what it is. So now we fast forward 1 year later. And again, I guess the whole trauma of going through the near-death experience, Lana and John Henry Irons decided to get married. And while they're getting married, everybody gets married at the Kent farm. Everybody gets married at the Kent barn. And while they were getting married, That's when Natalie finally came back, and I was like, thank you, Jesus. I mean, this is her daddy after all, so why would she not be there? Sophie was there. Pretty much all the like the vast majority of the cast members that we've seen from episode 1 up until this point, everybody was at the wedding. Like Chrissy was there. She's gonna have another baby, so her and Kyle now has 4 children. Like I said, Sophie was there. Like, the coach was there. Like, everybody was there. Natalie was there. But my whole thing is, if this is your daddy, and if your dad's getting married, Sarah wasn't there. Sarah wasn't at the wedding, but I'm going to talk about that in a second. But again, if you're Natalie and this is your daddy and your daddy getting married, why are you sitting in like the 9th row? like she was sitting in the 9th row. The boys was sitting in the... Superman gave Lana away, and Superman's wife is officiating the wedding. Why is Superman in the back row with the boys and with John Henry Irons' daughter? That, I'm like, who did this seating arrangement? This is crazy. Like, you figure that's where Kyle and Chrissy would have sat. So then they ended up getting Lana and, John Henry Irons got married. Everybody's dancing, singing. Lana and Kyle had one last dance. And then Jordan goes outside to the front porch to where the house is. And that's where we find Sarah. And then he goes up to her and he's like, oh, your mom's in there getting married, having a reception. How come you're not in there? And then she was like, hell no. She said that so many bad things happen in that barn. She said that thing's cursed. She's like, if I go anywhere near that barn, I'm going to be cursed for life, which is her basically saying that's TV cover up for, hey, I wasn't available to shoot the day of the wedding, so we're going to shoot something with me on a different day when I'm available. When the whole thing with everybody having those conversations outside of the barn, those obviously took place on different days. And the bottom line was Sarah, like the actress that plays Sarah, just wasn't available for the day that they shot the wedding. But it was nice that they actually did get to have a conversation with her. She agreed. She said she lived in Greece for a year and she doesn't want to live in Smallville. So she's going to go back to Greece after high school is over because she said she's done with Smallville, maybe not even Greece or whatever. And I'm a little disappointed in one thing, because it was nice for her to finally have that. And I mean, she bitched about being in Smallville the entire time she was on the show. So it was nice to see her finally say that, hey, after high school, like, I'm out of here. From we know in the comic books, in Superman the Animated Series, and other iterations of the Lana Lane character, we also found out that Sophie was named after Lana because her name was Lana Sophie Kuching or whatever. But the Lana character in other iterations was a fashion designer. She did fashion clothes, like she was on runways, like she did like all this cool like fashion stuff. It would have been nice just to give a nod to the Lana Lane character if Sarah would have said after high school she's going back to Greece to study fashion. And then it would have been cool that Sarah ends up growing up to become a fashion designer. And hey, Natalie could have been like her first model or something on the runway, because since the two of them are like sisters now. So, but I said, but we didn't get that. All she said was, I ain't going to be here no more after high school. And then she was like, are you okay with being a hero? And he said, yes. John Henry and Natalie had a conversation outside on the grass because I guess that was the only day the two of them could be together. And then even then, she said that she was like, oh, I think mom, would like the fact that we're happy. And then he was just like, yeah, and then she was like, this is our home now and everything. No talk about Mateo. Nobody say nothing about Mateo. And she didn't even say, I'm going to like having Lana for a mom, or, it was just like, it was nice that the two of them had like a final moment together. At least the girl spoke because she was at the wedding and she was just sitting there like laughing and like smiling and looking at her dad, but she never actually spoke. So the fact that Natalie actually got a conversation was nice to see. And then after that, then we fast forward even further, because now Superman, the actor Tyler Hoechlin, he's doing the monologue, the voiceover, to let us know what actually happens. So he tells us that, fast forward, Superman and Lois basically saved the world because the two of them started a foundation in the General's name. They fed the homeless, like they brought world peace together. They were champions for justice. The boys finally got super costumes because, again, as Superman gets older, his power is going to diminish. The boys ended up getting costumes and they ended up, like saving, I guess like taking over for him. And then Superman finally admitted that he couldn't do it alone. He needed help. So it was Superman, it was his two boys with their new super costumes, it was Natalie, Starlight up at the top, and John Henry Irons, who got the legitimate comic book accurate steel suit. He got the legitimate steel suit with the big ass hammer, and he had the cape. I said, my man John Henry got the cape. He gave my man the cape. And the five of them together, save the world. We didn't see them save the world. There were no scenes of them saving the world. There was no action of them saving the world, but the five of them did say, ended up saving the world. And everything was perfectly fine. And now, here's the portion of the review where I'm going to start talking about the nays. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, as he's doing this monologue telling everybody what's been happening and what's been going on throughout the course of life. They said that the boys got, as Lois and Clark got older, as they got older, the boys also got older. They grew up, they got married, and they had families and children of their own. Now, right out the gate, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But I'd be remiss if I didn't keep it real. That was the worst. That was the worst choice of adult versions of them that they could have possibly come up with. Goddamn. It did not look, those were the worst, those were the worst actors picked. It didn't, I would have preferred they just took the two regular actors and just put makeup on them to make them look older. The two guys that they got to play them didn't look like them at all. Their heads were huge. Their noses were way too big. It just wasn't no. That was a bad casting choice. And then with their wives, they showed their wives. Clearly that wasn't Candace and that wasn't Sarah. But it would have been nice, to know what happened to Candace. Is Candace okay? Did her and Jonathan break up? What did Sarah? And this is another thing I didn't like, because when they were going down the line and he was saying they ended up having all these children and I stayed in Smallville. Unfortunately, Lois's cancer came back. They had a scene where Lois, Clark, and Bruno Mannheim struck a deal to where they started these foundations in Bruno Mannheim's name. They didn't mention Mateo. Because see, the thing is now, when he was doing the monologue, now we're talking about the future. We're talking about everything that happened in the future. So you just told us, unfortunately, Lois's cancer came back and she passed away. And then after she passed away, the boys and Superman, they were there when she passed. After she passed, Clark was, they had a thing where Lana brought him a pie. Where was Lana? What is Lana up to? She's still not the mayor. All this time had gone by. The girl ain't mayor no more. So what has she been doing? They didn't say what happened to John Henry Irons. Did Lana and John Henry Irons have children? And then when they were going through the whole thing, and this is what pissed me. This is actually what pissed me off. So they told us about certain things, about the foundation, about Bruno Mannheim, how Bruno Mannheim basically made Lex Luthor his bitch, while he was in prison. Clark said that because Lois had passed away, he was so lonely being in the house without her there because they shared so many memories in the house, he got a dog. And then he goes, why have I never gotten a dog before? I'm sorry. What happened to Sarah? What happened to Sophie? What happened to her sister? What happened to Kyle? When did Kyle pass away? When you had your grandchildren, when all of your grandchildren were in the living room with both of their parents and you as their grandparents, at least one of them damn kids should have flew. It would have been a cool scene if while all the kids were in the living room together playing and having fun, if at least one of those kids elevated off the ground. Just give us something to let us, is John and Jordan still saving people now that they have families, now that they have children, now that they have wives? Are they heroes? Are they continuing to be heroes? Did we meet other heroes? Is Natalie still a hero? Is Natalie building weapons for the DOD? What is Natalie doing? What's Natalie doing? What is Sarah doing? Because I understand you can't have everybody there due to scheduling conflicts. But if you're going to do a 10-minute monologue telling us every single thing that happened over the next 32 years, I would have much preferred you spent that 10 minutes telling us what happened to each individual character. I don't give a damn about that damn dog. He spent so much time talking about that damn dog. I was like, don't nobody care about that damn dog. What is Natalie up to? Is Natalie and Mateo a thing? Did Natalie become president of the United States? Did she become a model in Sarah's, fashion career? Like I said, that's the part that drives, because it's not that they couldn't tell us that. You could have told us that the man was monologuing the future. All you had to do was just say, Sarah grew up to become, like a college professor or something. Natalie grew up to, to become the DOD, like Lana. And then like that, along with like the two worst body double actors for the boys of all time. Do any of your grandchildren have superpower? Like, these are things that, yes, you probably couldn't have showed it to us because it wasn't in the budget. But for the love of God, he could have said something. He could have said something. And then we get to the point where after Lois, was taken by her cancer, Clark almost died. Kyle saved his life. And then we get to the point where, because again, the general's heart basically gave him 32 more years of life. Did Lex Luthor die in prison? That was another question we had. What happened to Lex? Did Lex Luthor die in prison? What happened to his daughter? But then we get to the point where Clark had his death scene. And, like he was getting older now. The heart was finally failing him. The boys were there. And then Clark finally passed away. When Clark passed away, he said that the first time everything went black. This time there was light. And it was like the most happiest moment of his life, because when he, like, after he passed and his spirit like released itself from its body, he saw his boys, like they were taking him through the house. He was going through the house, like seeing like things in his history. Like he said, like honor, regret, family, forgiveness. He saw Lex Luthor and he forgave Lex Luthor for every single thing that he done. Here was the crazy part. Lana's his best friend. John Henry Irons is basically her husband. Like he's one of his best friends. Like he steals Superman, for Christ's sake. Those two actors obviously weren't there when he was doing that walk through the house, like heaven scene, because when he went into the kitchen, you saw like a holographic image of Lana and John Henry Irons hugging each other, waving at him, and he waved back. But yet when he saw Kyle and Chrissy, he fist bumped Kyle and hugged Chrissy. Why the fuck would you hug Chrissy when Lana's standing right there? Like, Chrissy and Clark were not that close to the point where you're hugging Chrissy. And yes, if it turns out that John Henry Irons and Lana, if both actors were not available, if it turns out that they were not there to shoot that scene, like to be physically there to shoot that scene. One, if you were going to do a holographic thing, you should have just put Natalie in the shit too. It should have just been Lana, Natalie, and John Henry Irons, or Lana, Sarah, and John Henry Irons, or whatever the case may be. But I understand putting Kyle and Chrissy in it because he talked about friends. But I'm just saying, because you're closer to Lana and you're closer to John Henry Irons, you do not hug Chrissy. Like, why are you hugging Chrissy? Like that, I was like, no. So he hugs Chrissy, he fist bumps Kyle, he waves at his best friend and her husband. And then when he's with his boys, the two normal looking boys, not the grown versions of them, they open the front door, and then when they open the front door, you see Lois standing there in the light wearing the red dress, like the beautiful red dress. She got her makeup all done and everything. And then he went out to embrace her, like the two of them hugged, they kissed each other. And then he said, hold on to your life and do whatever you have to do because it goes by so fast. And that was how the series ended. That was how Arrowverse ended. That was how we closed the chapter on the previous DC regime, because now movie, television, animated wise, although there's still hope for Young Justice, it's officially over. I thank all of you for tuning in for the last 4 years as I reviewed Superman and Lois. And for the final time for Superman and Lois, for the love of God, thank you for tuning in. Here we go. So it's officially over. And watching the ending broke my heart. Like it did. Like it was very sad to watch. And although it broke my heart, like I said, there were still things about the only thing about it that drove me insane was the two actors they got to play the adult versions of the boys, and the fact that Clark did a whole 30-minute monologue and said nothing about the lives of everyone else. And it was just so simple. And instead we got him talking about that damn dog. I'm sick of hearing about this damn dog. But yeah, that was it. We didn't get any other heroes. It wasn't even like, oh, as I got older and as me, John, the boys, and Natalie continued to save the world, we met other heroes. And they could have just gave us a little Flash or a little, like there was no Justice League thing or whatever. But that's it. But it was heart. I mean, the show was about Superman and Lois, so they did focus on Superman and Lois. But I honestly wanted to see what happened with like other characters, because the other characters were important. For the love of God, like Denise was at the goddamn wedding. For Christ's sake, like, everybody was at the wedding. But it was still good. It was still touching. And as the sun has officially set, like I said, the Arrowverse is, comes to a close, and we're officially under the gun now. Like we're in James Gunn territory. But and even like kudos, because I even heard that when they were trying to get all the old actors back to finish the show, I heard that the Lana character and that the John Henry Irons character, those were the two, like, I don't want to say like the two hardest people that they got to bring back, but those were the two people that we were concerned about not coming back. And the two of them ended up getting like honestly, this episode was almost more about Lana and John than it was about Superman and Lois, because it started with them, and we had this whole big thing about the two of them getting married. But I honestly just wanted to know what happens with Natalie. Was that too much to ask? But I said, but that was it. Let me know what you guys thought. Share your questions, comments, and concerns down below, and we'll continue to talk about it, because Superman and Lois was one of the shows where I was fortunate enough to start reviewing it from the beginning, because a lot of these Arrowverse shows I didn't get a chance to review from the beginning. Like, I started either like in the second season or like halfway through. But Superman and Lois, like, it was one of those shows where, I was able to, start from the very beginning. Even Stargirl, though Stargirl ended early, but, I was able to be there from the beginning to the end. And I appreciate that so much. And I look forward to continuing, because now we're in new territory. We're in new DC territory. And I look forward to sharing it all with you guys. So like I said, so check me out on X. Check me out on TikTok while it still exists. Check me out on Instagram and YouTube, where you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns. Who is your favorite character? Because, usually I say who's the MVP, but obviously in the final season, the MVP of this whole thing got to be Clark. Like, it really has to be Clark. But overall, who is your favorite character for Superman and Lois? My favorite character, which probably won't come as a surprise to everybody, my favorite character on the entire series was Natalie, because I feel like when Natalie showed up, she breathed a breath of fresh air that was badly needed into the show with her insight. And I just love the development of her character. Whatever happened to Tal-Rho? Like, Tal-Rho was his brother, and like, he was on the Bizarro world. He never came back. Like, Tal-Rho never came back to see his brother and everything. That was sad. But but like I said, but to me, Natalie was like my MVP for the entire series. Like, I enjoyed her character. There was really nothing. It was sad too, because like they even said, like, Mitzi, she said in an interview that, and I bring this up all the time, that when the show first started, it's like Supergirl was supposed to be a part of it. We never got a Supergirl reference. Like, they said that they shot scenes with Melissa Benoist. They had pictures of Melissa Benoist at the Daily Planet and everything. Supergirl was supposed to be a part of the show, and then they pulled her at the last second. And it sucks that they didn't introduce a Supergirl in the fourth and final season, because even to get like Melissa Benoist to come back, or just get a new actress to play her just like once, like, would have been completely awesome. And it really sucks that we didn't get to see that as well. But like I said, even the Arrowverse as a whole, Superman had it. We got to see Superman, Black Lightning, like, we got to see those characters have a seat at the table. We got to see them interact with other characters. We were robbed of the Arrowverse too early, because due to COVID, we never got that crossover that was supposed to be the Felix Faust crossover. We never got that one, but The Flash did give us a chance to say goodbye to certain characters, because all the characters were on like the Flash final season, so we did get that, at least. But like I said, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss it, but I also have to embrace change and embrace what's to come with the James Gunn universe. So stay locked on Red Eyes Entertainment as I review Creature Commandos as we kick off the Gundam. So that was it, guys. So for the final time, and I'm gonna miss the song that I use for Superman and Lois. I love that damn song. Like, I'm gonna miss it, because I'm probably not gonna get a chance to use it again. It was like the perfect Superman song, to the point where everybody thought at one point that was the actual theme, and I was like, nah, I just found that online. So that's my jam. So as we play that jam one more time, as we say goodbye to the Arrowverse, to Oliver Queen, to the Flash, to Supergirl, to Black Lightning, to Naomi, to Batwoman, to Legends of Tomorrow, and anybody else that I forgot, like, I apologize. We'll see you in the Gunn universe. This is like Crisis all over again. Like, when Crisis, and remember, like, on Crisis 3 when it ended and everybody went through a portal and then they showed up in a new world. Like, I feel like that's where we are right now. But until then, like I said, like, I will see you all in the Gunn universe. Until next time, up and away, not for the last time, because we are getting the review for the James Gunn Superman Man of Tomorrow, so we will be back. So it's not up and away for the last time, but up and away for the last time this time. Until next time, for some more DC action. Take care. I love you all. And until then, we're out this. Beyond!